Hello and welcome. You are watching India Today SoSouth. The issue of political reservation for women can be traced back to the Indian national movement. In 1931, leaders Begum Shahnawaz and Sarojini Naidu wrote a letter to the British Prime Minister stating, to seek any form of preferential treatment would be to violate the integrity of the universal demand of Indian women for absolute equality of political status. In 1947, freedom fighter Renuka Ray said, "We always held that when the men who have fought and struggled for their country's freedom came to power, the rights and liberties of women too would be guaranteed." In 1971, the National Action Committee on the Status of Women in India discussed the receding political representation of women in India. Many committee members were against reservation for women in legislative bodies, but supported reservation for women in local bodies. Following this, many states nationwide announced reservations for women in local bodies. In 1988, the National Perspective Plan for Women recommended that reservations be provided to women from the panchayat level to that of the parliament. This led to the enactment of the 73rd and 74th Amendments to the Constitution, which mandate all state governments to reserve 1/3 of the seats for women in Panchayati Raj institutions and 1/3 of the offices of the chairperson at all levels of the Panchayati Raj institutions and in urban local bodies. Within these seats, 1/3 are reserved for scheduled caste and scheduled tribe women. States such as Bihar, Jharkhand, Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Kerala and Chhattisgarh have made provisions to ensure 50% reservation for women in local bodies. The Constitution 108th Amendment Bill 2008 seeks to reserve 1/3 of all seats for women in the Lok Sabha and the state legislative assemblies. The allocation of reserved seats shall be determined by such authority as prescribed by Parliament. 1/3 of the total number of seats reserved for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes shall be reserved for women of those groups in the Lok Sabha and the legislative assemblies. Reserved seats may be allotted by rotation to different constituencies in the state or union territory. Reservation of seats for women shall cease to exist 15 years after the commencement of this Amendment Act. A little bit about the history of Women's Reservation Bill. It was first introduced in the Lok Sabha as the 81st Amendment Bill in September 1996 by the Deve Gowda-led United Front government. The bill failed to get the approval of the House and was referred to a joint parliamentary committee which submitted its report to the Lok Sabha in December 1996. But the bill lapsed with the dissolution of the Lok Sabha. In 1998, the Atal Bihari Vajpayee-led National Democratic Alliance government reintroduced the bill in the 12th Lok Sabha after the Law Minister M. Thambidurai introduced it. An RJD MP went to the well of the House, grabbed the bill and tore it to bits. The bill failed to get support and lapsed again. The bill was, however, reintroduced in 1999, 2002 and 2003. Even though there was support for it within the Congress, the BJP and the left parties, the bill failed to receive majority votes. In 2008, the Manmohan Singh-led United Progressive Alliance government tabled the bill in the Rajya Sabha, and it was passed with 186-1 votes on March 9, 2010. However, the bill was never taken up for consideration in the Lok Sabha and lapsed with the dissolution of the 15th Lok Sabha. At the time, the RJD, the JDU and the SP were its most vocal opponents. They demanded 33% reservation for backward groups within the 33% quota for women. JDU leader Sharad Yadav infamously demanded to know how short-haired women could represent our women, that is, women from rural areas. So, what has been the status of this bill? The last concrete development on this issue was in 2010 when Rajya Sabha passed the bill amid a ruckus with marshals escorting out some MPs who opposed the move to reserve 33% seats for women in Lok Sabha and state assemblies. But the bill lapsed as it could not be passed by Lok Sabha. And what are the arguments for the bill? One of the key arguments in favor of the bill states that affirmative action is needed to better the condition of women in Indian society. Women in India are still underrepresented in the parliament, and the bill will ensure they get an opportunity to form a strong lobby in the parliament. Another key argument is that women's representation is needed in decision making to address issues such as the high percentage of crimes against women, low participation of women in the workforce, low nutrition levels, and a skewed sex ratio. And what are the arguments against the bill? One of the key arguments against the bill is that women are not a homogeneous community, such as a caste group. Therefore, the arguments made for caste-based reservations cannot be made for women. Another argument states that reserving seats for women would violate the Constitution's guarantee of equality. Thus, if there is a reserve, women would not compete on merit, which in turn could decrease their status in society. Another argument against the bill states that as men hold primary power and key positions in Indian politics, bringing women into politics could destroy the ideal family. In 2014, the BJP promised 33% reservation for women in its manifesto and repeated the promise in its 2019 agenda. So what has been the origin of Women's Reservation Bill? The original idea for this bill originated from a constitutional amendment which was passed back in 1993. The constitutional amendment stated that a random one-third of village council leader or sarpanch positions in the Gram Panchayat should be reserved for women. The Women's Reservation Bill was launched as a long-term plan to extend this reservation to Lok Sabha and state legislative assemblies. The people who opposed this bill considered this as preferential treatment towards women of India. Lalu Prasad Yadav-led RJD has been one of the vocal opponents for the Women's Reservation Bill along with Samajwadi Party. Political personalities like LJP's Chirag Paswan and Odisha Chief Minister Naveen Patnaik have been pushing for the Women's Reservation Bill in their rallies and speeches.